Salam. Today we're in Abu Dhabi, but we've headed north of the city and we're on Saadiyat Island, which is home to probably the largest collection of museums being built at one time anywhere in the world. Behind us we can see the new Guggenheim Museum being built. Looks absolutely stunning. And if I turn the camera around as well, we're actually at the entrance of the Louvre Abu Dhabi. So let's go and discover, as this at the moment is the most famous museum actually open on the island. And here you get a magnificent view of the Louvre without even having to buy a ticket. What a stunning piece of architecture, and believe me, it's even more remarkable inside. It was opened in 2017 and I was lucky enough to be here on business, took the day to see it, can't wait to go in again. But at that time it was the only museum building here. So it's extraordinary to see this amazing construction work, which I'll introduce you to in the film as we go step by step. This is actually a pretty nice park and boardwalk in the vicinity of the Louvre Museum, and you can actually get quite surprisingly close to the Guggenheim building site. Right, I've reached the fence of the building site, but let's see if I lift the camera. Oh, can we see anything? What I can say is that the building is a worthy cousin to the Guggenheim in New York and also the European branch in Bilbao. You'll see that this is going to be an absolutely stunning building. I wonder what it all represents. To me, at the front of the building, it looks like billowing sails. There's a huge bridge leading back to the northern part of the Corniche, and there you can see in the distance the skyscrapers which front more or less directly onto the water. Whilst walking through this oasis is unquestionably pleasurable, it's time to get over to the main Louvre building. I think tickets are limited and it's clear there's a few people there. I don't think there's going to be a problem, but it would be a shame not to get in. No idea whether photography is allowed, but we'll certainly find out. Aside from the building itself, there's this marvellously colourful piece of art directly outside the building. Do you know who the artist is? The artist is actually called Zach Ove, and this was made now, this year, 2025, specially designed for the Louvre Abu Dhabi, and it's called Black Starliner, apparently a psychedelic space vessel that continues his personal exploration of time travel and Afrofuturist concepts of physical and metaphysical transport, blending African diasporic history, culture and myth to envision alternative futures. Beyond that, I'll let you work it out for yourselves. From the main collection, the museum also has temporary exhibitions. At the moment, Kings and Queens of Africa, Forms and Figures of Power, in partnership with the Musée du Quai Branly, named after Jacques Chirac. In fact, this project had a great deal to do with President Jacques Chirac as well, who partnered with the United Arab Emirates to create this Louvre Museum. And the main boulevard running past is also named in his memory and in his honour. The ticket costs 65 dirham, which is around about £13.70, and as far as I can tell, it covers the permanent and temporary exhibition. Tremendous. Another really great feature is that there's a free audio guide which you can download on your mobile phone when you get to the museum. And here we go into the galleries. I'm not even going to attempt to show you all of the exhibits, but even in this entrance hall, the mosques of eternity, which come from Lebanon, Philippines, and also from Peru, and are centuries old. This is the advantage of having vast tracts of desert and open space to build museums that are genuinely planned for that purpose. I'm sure that this sense of space will be repeated across all of the museums on the island. Now, the concept behind the Louvre here is that it's a universal museum and brings together works from across the ages and a multitude of cultures. And it's a chronological journey, chronological even, through 12 chapters which span prehistoric to contemporary periods and highlight the characteristics shared by humanity, such a valuable theme throughout our history. I have to say, that's also, to me, a very similar concept to what you see at the Louvre Museum in Lens. And for those who can't travel to Abu Dhabi, if you live in the south of England in particular, or London, just driving across the channel, taking a ferry with P&O or DFDS or the Eurotunnel perfect way to see another stunning exhibition. It's only about an hour's journey from Calais by car. But now let's get back to our theme of this Louvre Museum in Abu Dhabi. Rather than interrupting you constantly with my commentary, take a little bit of video and add some music in the background so you can appreciate the full extent of the museum's reach. Clearly a major reason to visit the Louvre is to see the art collections, both permanent and temporary, but you also want to see this amazing building which is kind of outside underneath the dome and also has an amazing play with light throughout the day, which changes as well depending on the time of the day and the position of the sun. Now, to see all of this, whilst it is true you see plenty around the building, you do need an entrance ticket, but it's well worth it just for the building. Well, a pretty thorough visit to the Louvre Museum, and honestly that is enough for a day trip. So imagine what this is going to be like when there's the Guggenheim Museum, the Natural History Museum, the National Museum of the United Arab Emirates, and there are others, I can't remember them all. This is going to be a huge Museum Island museum complex, definitely rival anything in the Middle East, probably actually surpass it, and frankly it'll be almost as good as Paris, London and Berlin. I think it's going to be an exciting journey, and I'm glad that we're in at the beginning of it. Just before we leave the island, let's have a look at some of the other landmarks that are being constructed or have recently been finished. Here is the Natural History Museum. It looks nearly finished, but there's still a bit of work to do. So much of this area is still under construction that you can't really wander about freely. In fact, to leave the Louvre you either have to take a taxi, your car, or a shuttle bus which takes you to the main public transport pickup point on bus 94 and takes you over the bridge and back into the city. But there are still things to see, particularly this building behind me, which is going to be the new National Museum of the United Arab Emirates. It has been delayed on many occasions due to financial issues and also construction challenges, but you can see it's well on its way to being completed, and it's another architectural wonder by Norman Foster and his company. All of these marvellous wings surging upwards represent the wings of falcons, the emblem of the United Arab Emirates, and obviously falconry is a fine art here. It seems most appropriate, and there can be no doubt that this museum will also be another soaring success. It will outline the history of the United Arab Emirates, have many permanent exhibitions but also temporary exhibitions, and is going to be the crowning glory of the entire Museum Island. it's intended to open around about the same time as the Guggenheim. So I think that means probably sometime in 2026. At long last, the people of the UAE have truly been waiting for this moment. We were dropped off by the shuttle bus on the other side of this wall, and I think that is where we were supposed to stay. There's absolutely no doubt I shouldn't be here, but there's no one with hard hats to find me. So I think I'm going to make it to my destination, my final destination on today's show. They could have made it a bit easier. And here I am standing outside the synagogue, which is part of the Abrahamic family complex, which was opened here on the island in 2023. And it's quite remarkable because on one side it unites the synagogue that you see behind me, and also a mosque and a Catholic church, all on one side. And that's not something you see very often, but all the monotheistic religions living side by side and in peace. A great example surely to all believers around the world. As you can see, all these centres of worship are cubic in shape, and they're aimed by the architect to represent the diverse worshippers, residents and visitors of Abu Dhabi, and also to dissolve the notion of hierarchical difference. Instead, these buildings should represent universality and totality and enhance the richness of human life. And whilst you can certainly understand the need for enhanced security around a synagogue, I have to say that considering this is a complex designed to bring people together, it's mighty disappointing from one perspective, which is that it only admits, as far as I can see, a handful of visitors every day. You can't enter any of the religious buildings from the outside, and there seems to be very little movement going in or out. And when I looked online, yes, you can book a visit, but it seems quite restrictive, and also only very few tickets every day. That, to me, seems like an enormous waste of an opportunity. Mind you, it's only been open for a short while, and that may well change. We've seen a lot on today's visit to Saadiyat Island. We've seen not only the Louvre Museum, but all of the buildings that are being constructed for the future to make this one of the most extraordinary centres of learning and museums anywhere in the world. But I have gone a bit off-piste, even if it is a little warm for that. And you might even see behind me a police car. There's police and security everywhere. And it's not just for the Abrahamic Centre. It's because of all of the construction sites around here. So I'm fairly exhausted after all the walking and admiring so many wonderful pieces of art. I think it's time to sign off and wish everybody watching Travel in the Know all the very best until we meet again for our next adventure. See you soon. This is Philip saying goodbye from Abu Dhabi.